First contact. I am Zex Torre, senior xenobiologist of the Galactic Consortium's flagship research vessel, the Eternal Seeker. In all my 300 cycles of service, I have documented first contact with 17 previously unknown species. None of those encounters prepared me for humans. Our sensors detected their vessel at the edge of the Cygnus Expanse, a modest craft by our standards. A patchwork of metals and composites that our chief engineer of Relmax claimed defied rational design principles. The ship's energy signature was peculiar, neither matter-antimatter nor quantum vacuum, something our databases couldn't identify. Impossible, Commander Philux muttered, her bioluminescent membranes flashing with agitation. That vessel cannot possibly be capable of interstellar travel. Yet there it was, proudly displaying markings we later learned represented something called the United Earth Alliance. When communications finally initiated, our translation matrices required 17 recalibrations before producing intelligible results. This is Captain Alina Reyes of the UEA Pathfinder. We come with peaceful intentions and an eagerness to meet our galactic neighbors. When the visual feed connected, the command deck fell silent. The beam before us was bipedal, as our probes had suggested, with a curious covering of black filaments on the top of its head. But it was the facial arrangement that captured my attention, specifically how the flesh around the communication orifice curved upward, revealing a row of white, flat bone protrusions. Is it displaying aggression? Security Chief Kirvex whispered, mandibles clicking nervously. Many species bear teeth as a threat display. The expression vanished, then reappeared. Hello. Are you receiving our transmission? The human asked. Commander Philux composed herself. We receive you, Captain Alina Reyes. I am Commander Philux of the Galactic Consortium research vessel, Eternal Seeker. Your presence in this sector is unexpected. I imagined so, the human responded, and the facial contortion appeared again. We've been developing our deep space capabilities for some time, hoping to make contact with other intelligent life. Looks like we succeeded. I couldn't contain my scientific curiosity. Permission to inquire about the facial muscular contractions, Commander. Philux's membranes pulsed with reluctant approval. Captain Rice, this is Senior Xenobiologist Zex Torre. May I ask about the recurring movement of your facial features? The human's expression intensified. You mean my smile? It's a human expression of friendliness or happiness. Is it concerning you? We have no equivalent expression, I explained. Our species communicates emotional states through bioluminescent pulses and pheromone releases. Fascinating, Captain Rice responded. There's so much for us to learn about each other. After consultation, Commander Philux invited the humans aboard. Our environmental systems confirmed compatibility with minor adjustments, and we prepared for physical first contact with appropriate decontamination protocols. The human delegation consisted of 5 members. Captain Rice, Science Officer Lin Wei, Security Chief Marcus Okafor, Communications Specialist Sofia Rodriguez, and Engineer Jamal Carter. They entered our reception chamber with movements that seemed simultaneously rigid and fluid, their bipedal locomotion both inefficient and strangely graceful. Captain Rice extended an upper appendage toward Commander Philux. It's customary among humans to shake hands as a greeting. Our cultural database had no reference for this ritual, but Philux cautiously extended her primary manipulator. The brief physical contact sent ripples of discomfort through her luminous membranes. Your vessel is remarkable, Science Officer Lin observed, ocular organs widening as they scanned our technology. The biointegration of your systems is unlike anything we theorized. Your own vessel intrigues us as well, I admitted. Your propulsion system defies our understanding of your technological development stage. Something flickered across Captain Ray's face. That smile again, but different. Smaller, tighter, not reaching the ocular organs. We've made some recent breakthroughs. Nothing that would impress a spacefaring civilization like yours, I'm sure. My sensory tendrils detected a shift in her biochemistry. subtle, but present. Our translation matrices categorized it as tension with attempt at concealment. I made a note in my observation pad. The diplomatic tour proceeded through our research facilities, engineering sections, and communal areas. Throughout, I catalogued 23 distinct variations of the human smile, each seemingly indicating different emotional states. Captain Rice displayed the tight, non-ocular variation whenever we approached sensitive technology or mentioned our defensive capabilities. During the nutritional break, I approached communications specialist Rodriguez, my research suggesting human females might be more forthcoming. Your species' facial expressions are complex, I observed. Captain Rice seems to use this smile in multiple contexts. Rodriguez's own mouth curved upward. Humans are pretty expressive. Sometimes we smile when we're happy, sometimes when we're nervous. It's just how we communicate. And when displaying teeth without eye involvement. Her biochemical readings shifted. I'm not sure what you mean. I would have pursued this line of inquiry, but an alert chimed through the ship. Commander Philux approached with urgency in her bioluminescence. Senior xenobiologist, we've received a priority communication from Consortium Command. The Vorax have been detected in a neighboring sector. At the mention of the Vorax, Captain Rice's posture changed subtly. The Vorax, she inquired, that peculiar tight smile appearing again. Commander Philux hesitated before responding. A highly aggressive species we've been monitoring. They've destroyed 3 research outposts in the past cycle. Nothing for your people to concern yourselves with. Of course, Captain Rice nodded, but I noticed her exchanging glances with Security Chief Okafor. That evening, while the humans rested in their accommodations, I consulted with Kirvex. The captain's reactions when we mentioned the Vorax concerned me. Kirvex's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. I've reviewed the sensor readings. Their heart rates elevated collectively by 23%, and their pheromone output suggested recognition. How could humans recognize the Vorax? They claim to be new to interstellar travel. Perhaps they aren't being entirely truthful, Kirvex suggested. Before we could pursue this theory, a massive impact rocked the Eternal Seeker. Alarm harmonics resonated through the ship as Commander Philux's voice echoed over the communication system. All personnel to emergency stations. Vorax vessels have decloaked on our perimeter. I rushed to the command deck, arriving as view screens displayed 3 predatory vessels surrounding us. Sleek, obsidian constructs with biomechanical protrusions that resembled claws. Commander Philux stood rigidly, her luminescence pulsing with controlled fear. They've never attacked a consortium research vessel before, she whispered. We're non-combatants. The doors slid open as Captain Rice and her team entered uninvited. Commander, we picked up the alert. How can we assist? This doesn't concern your species, Philux responded tersely. Return to your quarters while we... The communication array activated as a Vorax transmission forced its way into our systems. The view screen filled with the nightmarish visage of a Vorax commander, a mass of chitinous plates and sensory appendages arranged around a trio of glowing orifices. Consortium vessel, the translation matrix rendered in harsh tones. You have entered restricted space. Your research has been deemed threatening to Vorax interests. Prepare for boarding and biological sampling. Philux's membranes flashed with diplomatic patterns. We respect Vorax territorial claims. Our presence here is purely scientific. Allow us to withdraw. Biological sampling will commence, the Vorax interrupted. Resistance will result in complete dissection rather than partial. I watched Captain Rice as the exchange occurred. The expression on her face transformed completely. The smile disappeared, replaced by something cold and focused. She stepped forward. Commander Philux, with your permission, we might be able to help. Your vessel is even less equipped than ours, Philux responded. It's not about our vessel, Captain Rice said quietly. It's about what we know. And there it was again. That smile. Not the friendly one, not the nervous one, but something entirely different. A predator's expression. What do you mean? I asked, sensory tendrils extending with curiosity. Captain Rice turned to me, that strange smile still on her face. The Vorax and humanity have met before. We just didn't mention it because, well, sometimes it's better to let others form their own first impressions. The command deck fell silent as the implications settled over us. These humans, whom we classified as primitive newcomers to the galactic stage, already knew one of the most feared species in our catalog. And judging by that smile, the Vorax might have more to fear than we did. Hidden agendas. 17 minutes until Vorax boarding craft reach our position, announced Navigation Officer Zintrull, her voice wavering despite efforts at professional composure. Commander Philux's luminescence pulsed with rapid patterns of decision-making stress. Activate emergency protocols. Transfer all research data to secure quantum storage. Prepare non-essential personnel for emergency evacuation. Throughout this crisis response, I couldn't tear my attention from Captain Rice and her team. They had positioned themselves in a loose formation near the command station, their postures transformed from diplomatic visitors to something that reminded me of the predatory species in our xenobiology archives. "Commander," Captain Rice said, her voice carrying a new authority, "we need to use your communication array to contact our vessel. Your small craft can do nothing against Vorax warships." Curvex responded dismissively. Security Chief Okafor stepped forward. "Our vessel is more than it appears. Much more." Something in his tone silenced further objections. Commander Philux gestured to the communication station. "Proceed." Captain Rice approached the console. "Pathfinder, this is Captain Rice. Authentication code Sierra. Co-Victor Echo November. Execute Protocol Umbra." The response was immediate. Authentication confirmed. Protocol Umbra initiated. Phase shift in 3 minutes. I exchanged confused glances with Curvex. Phase shift had no meaning in our technological lexicon. "What exactly is your vessel capable of?" Commander Philux demanded. Captain Rice turned, that predatory smile returning. "Let's just say the Pathfinder has certain modifications not included in our official first contact profile." The tactical display suddenly flickered as new readings appeared. "Commander," exclaimed Tactical Officer Vrildex, "the human vessel. It's altering its configuration. Energy readings are impossible." On the view screen, the seemingly modest human craft began to transform. Panels slid away revealing weapon ports. Energy signatures fluctuated wildly as systems previously masked came online. "You deceived us," Commander Philux accused, her membranes flashing indignation patterns. "We exercised appropriate caution," Captain Rice corrected. "Humanity has learned the hard way that first impressions matter. The Vorax taught us that lesson 3 Earth years ago when they attacked our colony on Proxima Centauri." This revelation sent shockwaves through the command deck. "Impossible," I protested. "Proxima Centauri is over 4 light years from your home system. You claim to have only recently developed interstellar capabilities." Science Officer Lin stepped forward. "What we claimed and what is true are not always identical. Dr. Zextora, humanity has been traveling between stars for over 70 Earth years. We've simply been discreet about it." Before we could process this information, proximity alarms blared. The Vorax vessels had accelerated their approach, clearly detecting the human ship's transformation. "They're charging weapons," reported Tactical Officer Vreldex. Pathfinder to Captain Rice, the communication system activated. Phase shift complete. Ready to engage on your command. Captain Rice looked to Commander Philux. "With your permission, we'll handle this. Your research vessel isn't equipped for combat." Philux's luminescence displayed conflicting emotions: suspicion, relief, scientific curiosity. "Proceed," she finally authorized. "Pathfinder, execute Maneuver Delta 7. Deploy countermeasures and prepare for intercept." What happened next defied our understanding of physics. The human vessel, now clearly a disguised warship, seemed to split into 3 identical images of itself, each moving with impossible acceleration. Our sensors couldn't determine which was the actual ship. Quantum displacement technology, Engineer Carter explained, noting our confusion. The Vorax encountered it during the Proxima incident. They didn't like it much then either. On the tactical display, the Vorax vessels fired energy weapons at the multiple Pathfinder images, hitting nothing but vacuum. Meanwhile, the actual Pathfinder, or one of its quantum duplicates, appeared behind the lead Vorax ship and fired what appeared to be targeted EMP pulses. Disabling their propulsion and weapons without destroying the vessel, Captain Rice explained, "We'd prefer to minimize casualties when possible." The Vorax vessels attempted evasive maneuvers, but the Pathfinder's quantum displacement technology gave it an insurmountable advantage. Within minutes, all 3 Vorax ships had been neutralized, drifting powerless in space. As the crisis subsided, the command deck fell into stunned silence. Commander Felix approached Captain Rice, her luminescence now displaying patterns of cautious reassessment. "It seems we have significantly underestimated humanity," she admitted. Captain Rice nodded. "Most species do. It's something we've learned to use to our advantage." "Why the deception?" I asked, scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "Why present yourselves as technological novices?" Captain Rice sighed, her predatory smile softening. 73 years ago, humanity sent out our first openly advanced starships to make contact with whoever might be out there. The Vorax intercepted one near what you call the Cygnus Expanse. They captured the crew, dissected half of them, and sent the survivors back with a message. Weak species should remain in their home systems. "A typical Vorax response," Curvex commented. "Our leaders had a choice," Rice continued. "Retreat behind our borders or find another approach. We chose the latter. We developed ships that could mask their capabilities. We learned to present ourselves as less advanced, less threatening, until we fully understood who we were dealing with." Science Officer Lin nodded. "Your consortium has a reputation for scientific cooperation. The Vorax are known predators. We approach each species according to their nature." "And how do you approach us?" Commander Felix asked pointedly. That enigmatic smile returned to Captain Ray's face. "With honesty, now that we've shown our hand, the Pathfinder will escort your vessel to safety, and then perhaps we can begin real diplomatic relations." As the human delegation returned to their ship, I accompanied them to the docking bay. "That smile," I said to Captain Reyes, "the one you displayed when the Vorax appeared, it's different from your others." "Perceptive," she commented. "Humans call it a predator's smile, or sometimes a wolf's smile. It's what happens when we're prepared to fight. You have different expressions for different combat states. We have expressions for nearly everything, Dr. Zextora. It's one of our species' most complex communication systems." After the humans departed, I returned to the command deck where Commander Felix was reviewing sensor data from the engagement. "Their technology is at least 3 development cycles beyond what they initially presented," she observed, "and their tactical approach suggests extensive combat experience." They've been fighting the Vorax, I realized, perhaps for years, without the consortium knowing. "Which raises an important question," Curvex interjected. "If humanity could defeat 3 Vorax warships with a single vessel, why maintain the pretense of being technologically primitive? What advantage does this deception provide?" Commander Felix's luminescence dimmed thoughtfully. "Perhaps the better question is, what other threats exist that make such caution necessary? The Vorax are formidable, but they're known to us. What if humanity has encountered something worse?" The question lingered unanswered as the Eternal Seeker followed the Pathfinder toward the safety of consortium space. I returned to my research quarters and began updating my xenobiology files on humans, particularly noting the significance of their facial expressions. But I couldn't shake the memory of Captain Ray's predatory smile or the implications of humanity's hidden capabilities. If they had concealed so much from us during first contact, what else might they be hiding? The answer came sooner than any of us expected. 3 days into our journey, as we approached the outer boundary of consortium space, our long-range sensors detected a massive energy signature emerging from subspace. The reading was unlike anything in our database, a swirling vortex of quantum distortions that defy our understanding of physics. Unknown vessel approaching, Tactical Officer Vreldex reported, mandibles clicking with anxiety. Configuration matches no known species. Size estimate. It's larger than a consortium city ship. The view screen displayed a nightmarish construct of dark matter and twisted metal, stretching at least 20 kilometers from end to end. As we watched in horror, it began to emit energy pulses that distorted the very fabric of space around it. Incoming transmission from the Pathfinder, Communications Officer Trelvix announced. Captain Ray's face appeared on the screen, all pretense of diplomatic courtesy gone. Commander Philux, you need to initiate emergency FTL jump immediately. Get your ship out of this sector now. What is that vessel? Commander Philux demanded. Something we hoped you'd never have to encounter. Rise replied grimly. We call them the Harvesters. They're why humanity learned to hide its true capabilities. Explain. No time. Captain Reyes cut her off. That ship has detected both our vessels. If you value your crew, you'll jump now. The Pathfinder will cover your escape. Commander Felix hesitated only briefly before turning to navigation. Prepare emergency jump sequence. As our engines began charging for the jump, I stared at the monstrous vessel approaching us. Captain Reyes, I called out. Your ship cannot possibly stand against something of that magnitude. The human captain's face displayed that predator smile once more, but now I understood it differently, not as a threat, but as a promise. Don't worry about us, Doctor. This isn't our first dance with the Harvesters. It probably won't be our last. The transmission cut as the Pathfinder accelerated toward the alien vessel, its quantum displacement technology creating dozens of duplicates. Jump sequence initiated, announced Navigation Officer Zentral. The last thing I saw before we entered FTL was the Pathfinder launching what appeared to be miniature black holes toward the massive alien ship. As space distorted around us, I realized that humanity's smiles concealed far more than I had ever imagined, and that the galaxy was a much more dangerous place than the consortium had believed. The revelation. 5 standard cycles passed before we received word of the Pathfinder. 5 cycles of debriefings, security councils, and endless questions from consortium high command. The revelation of humanity's advanced technology and their knowledge of the Harvesters, a species previously unknown to our vast databases, sent shockwaves through the political establishment. I spent those cycles analyzing every second of recorded data from our encounter, particularly focusing on human expressions and what they revealed about their true nature. The consortium had initially classified humans as emergent sentients, technological adolescents barely worth diplomatic consideration. That assessment had been catastrophically wrong. When the transmission finally came, it wasn't through official channels. A quantum-encrypted message appeared on my personal research terminal, bypassing all consortium security protocols. Dr. Zex Torre, it read. Your scientific curiosity is noted and appreciated. If you wish to understand the full truth, coordinates are attached. Captain Reyes. I should have reported the message immediately. Protocol demanded it. But scientific curiosity, the driving force of my 300-cycle career, overrode caution. I fabricated a research expedition, requisitioned a small survey vessel, and followed the coordinates. They led to an unremarkable star system in neutral space, seemingly devoid of anything interesting. As I approached the coordinates, my sensors detected nothing unusual until a localized space-time distortion enveloped my vessel. The star shifted position, and suddenly a massive space station appeared where empty space had been moments before. Impressive cloaking technology. I murmured to myself as my communication console activated. Dr. Zex Torre, Captain Ray's voice came through. Welcome to Sanctuary Station. Please follow the guidance beacon to Docking Bay 7. The station was a marvel of engineering, a massive torus structure with various ships docked along its circumference. Most surprising was the diversity. I recognized vessels from at least a dozen different species, including some the consortium considered hostile to one another. Captain Reyes greeted me at the airlock, that now familiar smile on her face. "Thank you for coming. I know this violates numerous consortium protocols. Scientific discovery often requires breaking rules," I replied. "Your message implied answers about the harvesters. And much more," she nodded. "Follow me." As we walked through the station, I observed beings from across the galaxy, some familiar, others unknown even to consortium records, coexisting with apparent ease. Humans moved among them, seemingly coordinating activities. "What is this place?" I asked. "The true face of humanity's first contact protocol," Reyes explained. "Sanctuary Station serves as our central coordination point for what we call the Coalition, an alliance of species united by a common threat." We entered a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display of the galaxy. Certain regions were highlighted in red, others in amber and green. Approximately 120 Earth years ago, our first deep space telescopes detected unusual energy signatures from several star systems. Reyes began. "Our scientists determined they were artificial, suggesting advanced civilizations. We launched our first interstellar probes toward these signals, eager to make contact." She gestured to one section of the galactic map, which expanded to show detailed scans of a planetary system. What they found was this: the aftermath of the harvesters. An entire civilization, more advanced than Earth at the time, reduced to molecular resources. The images showed planetary surfaces stripped of everything: atmosphere, water, organic compounds, valuable minerals, leaving nothing but barren rocky cores. "The harvesters are not a species in the biological sense," Reyes continued. "They're autonomous harvesting systems created by a long-extinct civilization. Their programming is simple: gather resources to expand their fleet, then find more resources. They'd been doing this for approximately 50,000 years. Why hasn't the consortium encountered them?" I asked. A new voice answered from behind us. "Because we've been keeping them away from major population centers." I turned to see a Vorax enter the chamber, the same species that had attacked us days earlier. Yet this one wore what appeared to be a coalition uniform, and moved with relaxed confidence among the humans. Captain Reyes nodded to the Vorax. "Dr. Zextora, meet Admiral Krithak of the Vorax Defense Fleet, one of our earliest coalition partners." My bioluminescence flashed with confusion patterns. "But the Vorax attacked us. You fought them." The Vorax's mouthparts clicked in what I now recognize as their version of bitter amusement. Those were separatists, a faction that believes cooperation with other species is weakness. They don't represent our government's official position. The coalition began with humanity and the Vorax," Captain Reyes explained. "Our first true contact with them was problematic, as we mentioned. But once both sides recognized the greater threat, cooperation became logical. Over the past 7 decades, Admiral Krithak continued, we've established a containment perimeter around Harvester territory. We intercept their scout ships before they can report back on population centers or resource-rich systems." The holographic display shifted to show a defensive line spanning hundreds of light years. Ships from various species patrolled designated sectors, forming a protective barrier around the more densely populated regions of the galaxy. "The consortium doesn't know because we've ensured they don't need to know," Reyes said. "Your civilization has been focused on scientific advancement, cultural exchange, and peaceful expansion. Meanwhile, the Coalition handles the existential threat. But the deception," I began, "is necessary," another voice interjected. I turned to see Science Officer Lin entering with a datapad. "The consortium's approach to first contact is to share all knowledge openly. Admirable, but catastrophically dangerous when dealing with the harvesters." Lin brought up historical data on the holographic display. 17 emerging civilizations have been discovered by the harvesters after broadcasting their location and technological capabilities openly. All 17 were harvested within a standard cycle. The harvesters prioritize targets based on technological development. Admiral Krithak explained, "Advanced civilizations represent both greater resources and potential threats. They are targeted first. So humanity presents itself as primitive," I realized. As do many coalition members, Captain Rice nodded. "We maintain the facade of technological inferiority or strict isolationism in official diplomatic channels. Meanwhile, we coordinate through stations like this one. The vessel that attacked us," I began, "was destroyed," Lin confirmed. "The Pathfinder led it away from your position, then rendezvoused with coalition forces. We deployed experimental weapons that collapsed its containment fields." My mind raced with implications. The consortium must be informed. Our research outposts, our colonies, they could be vulnerable. "That's why you're here," Captain Rice said, her expression serious. "The consortium's expansion has reached the edge of our containment perimeter. We can no longer guarantee their safety without their cooperation." Admiral Krithak's sensory appendages flexed. "For decades, we've respected the consortium's philosophical approach while protecting them from realities they chose not to see. That luxury has ended." Captain Rice led me to a conference room where representatives from a dozen species waited, most unknown to consortium records, yet all clearly spacefaring civilizations. "Dr. Zex Torah," Rice began formally, "we've brought you here because your scientific reputation suggests you value truth over comfortable illusions. The Coalition requests your assistance as liaison to the consortium." "What exactly would that entail?" I asked cautiously. A holographic presentation appeared, showing staged diplomatic incidents, strategic technological disclosures, and carefully managed first contact scenarios. "We need to bring the consortium into the coalition gradually," Rice explained. "Their scientific knowledge, their biological technologies, they could be decisive in the conflict, but their political structure cannot handle the full truth all at once." "You're asking me to deceive my own government," I observed. "We're asking you to help save them," Admiral Krithak corrected. "As you helped save that research vessel by recognizing the significance of a human smile." I considered this for several moments, my bioluminescence cycling through patterns of ethical conflict. "If I refuse, you return to the consortium with a modified memory of a routine research expedition," Rice said matter-of-factly. "We have the technology. You would never know what you've seen here. And if I accept..." Captain Rice's face formed that now familiar expression, the predator's smile that I first observed during the Vorax encounter. "Then you become part of humanity's longest-running first contact protocol, the one that doesn't begin with a handshake and cultural exchange, but with a simple question. Will you fight with us when the harvesters come?" Looking around the room at the assembled representatives, species that should be enemies according to consortium records, now united in common cause, I realized what that smile truly meant. It wasn't aggression or deception, as I'd initially feared. It was determination. The expression of a species that had seen the abyss and chosen to stand against it, not just for themselves, but for others who didn't even know they were being protected. "The consortium claims to value truth and knowledge above all else," I said finally. "It would be hypocritical of me to reject either, no matter how uncomfortable." I extended my primary manipulator toward Captain Rice in the human gesture of agreement. "I will serve as your liaison, but I want unrestricted access to coalition data on the harvesters. If I'm to convince my people, I need to understand the threat completely." Rice clasped my manipulator in her hand, that wolf's smile now holding new meaning. "Welcome to the coalition, Dr. Zex Torah, and to the real first contact with humanity. Not as we pretend to be, but as we are." As the meeting adjourned and plans were made for my return to consortium space, I reflected on how profoundly I had misinterpreted the human expression. What I had seen as possible deception had been a window into their true nature, a species that smiled in the face of existential threats, that concealed strength rather than weakness, that protected others without seeking recognition. Now, as I prepare this record for eventual disclosure to the Consortium High Command, I understand the human captain's smile for what it truly was, not a warning that humans were dangerous, but a promise that they would face danger for the sake of others. By the time we understood, it was indeed too late. Too late to maintain our comforting illusions about a benign universe. But perhaps not too late to join the fight against the darkness beyond our protective bubble of ignorance. The human captain smiled. Now we know why.